Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today's session is called AI Daily Deep Dive, and here's a bit of a twist for you. This entire deep dive, the research, the initial script outline, it was all put together by AI, drawing from today's key AI news, May 29th, 2025.
That's right. And our job today is to basically walk you through that stack of information. We're here to unpack the important bits, the essential takeaways from what's happening right now.
Exactly. We've got 5 main stories lined up. We'll tackle them one by one, pull out the core points, and really try to get to the heart of what it all means. Let's jump in.
First up, we're looking at China, specifically the AI startup DeepSeek. They seem to be making some serious waves, challenging U.S. rivals.
They are. DeepSeek just announced an update to their main R1 reasoning model. It's called R10528, technically a minor version upgrade, according to their posts on Hugging Face and WeChat. But the focus is clearly on boosting its reasoning and inference skills. And this feels like more than just a routine update, doesn't it? The reporting frames it as a real competitive move against the big U.S. players, OpenAI, Google, and even Chinese giants like Alibaba and Tencent. And I remember their original R1 model back in January. It kind of challenged the idea that you needed absolutely massive compute for top-tier AI, right?
Absolutely. That was a big part of its initial impact. And with this R10528 update, DeepSeek is claiming they're getting closer to, the performance levels of models like OpenAI's O3 and Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro on really complex stuff. In their WeChat announcement, they got pretty specific. They mentioned around a 45 to 50% drop in hallucinations for tasks like rewriting or summarizing text.
Okay, that's significant. Hallucinations are a major headache.
Exactly. They also talked about better creative writing essays, bits of novels improved front-end code generation, and even making the AI better at role-playing scenarios.
So it's not just about raw power. It's about accuracy and versatility. And the source material suggests that doing this, potentially at a lower cost, really pushes back against the idea that U.S. export controls are completely blocking China's AI progress.
That's a really key dynamic highlighted in the sources, yes. DeepSeek also mentioned using a technique called distillation. Essentially, they took the reasoning process learned by this new R1 model and used it to improve another model, specifically Alibaba's Qwen 3.8B base model. They reported over a 10% performance boost there.
Ah, interesting. So the advancements aren't just siloed. They can actually lift other, maybe smaller models. That's pretty significant for research.
It is. It shows how these improvements can ripple outwards. Meanwhile, we are seeing reactions from the U.S. side, as the sources point out. Google brought in some discounted tiers for Gemini access, and OpenAI cut some prices and released that O3 mini model designed to be less compute hungry.
Right. It's definitely a fast-moving chess game. And while this R10528 is labeled a minor trial upgrade, people are still watching for their full R2 model, which Reuters suggested might be coming around now.
Yeah, the anticipation for R2 is still there.
So, thinking about the big picture for you, listening, this story really throws you straight into that intense global AI race. It shows competition isn't just about making things faster, but also pushing for efficiency and accessibility. Powerful AI might become more available, maybe quicker than we thought.
Good point.
Okay, let's shift gears. Story number 2 takes us into the weeds of AI and U.S. government policy. There's a budget bill moving through the House, brought forward by Republicans.
That's correct. And according to the sources we looked at, this bill has 2 really major parts related to AI. First, it proposes a ban on individual states regulating AI. Second, it sets aside quite a bit of funding for autonomous weapons and other national security AI.
And the sources noted an interesting shift, didn't they? Some AI executives who were previously calling for regulation now seem more aligned with this push for U.S. dominance, which the bill seems to favor.
Yeah, that tension is definitely there in the reporting. The bill suggests a 10-year ban, a moratorium on states creating their own AI rules. The argument from supporters like Representative Jay Obernault is that a patchwork of state laws would be confusing and hurt small startups trying to navigate it all.
Makes sense on the surface, but what's the pushback?
Well, critics, consumer groups, state AGs, they argue that current state rules are actually quite minimal, and they say they're necessary to tackle real harms, like deepfakes or those cases where AI systems wrongly denied people essential services. Bakak from the AI Now Institute is quoted highlighting issues like AI used in denying Medicaid claims.
Right, we've heard industry folks like Sam Altman warning against European-style regulations being too restrictive. Does this bill sort of lean into that?
It certainly seems to favor fewer regulatory hurdles, but The sources are quick to point out a major obstacle for that state regulation ban, especially in the Senate. There's something called the Byrd Rule in budget reconciliation, which basically says provisions have to be directly budget-related. Banning state laws might not qualify.
Ah, a procedural hurdle.
Exactly, and senators like Josh Hawley and John Cornyn have apparently expressed doubts, suggesting that part of the bill might just get stripped out.
Okay, let's talk about the money side then. There's $25 million specifically for AI contracts to detect Medicare fraud.
Yes, but even that comes with warnings. Critics, like legal aid lawyer Kevin DeLeben, point to past problems. They cite documented cases, for example, in Arkansas and Texas, where AI fraud systems made mistakes and wrongly cut off vulnerable people from Medicaid. So there's concern about repeating those errors.
That's a serious concern. And beyond that specific $25 million, the bill seems to pour money into military and border security AI.
Oh, absolutely. The scale is pretty vast. Billions potentially heading to the Pentagon for AI. We're talking hundreds of millions for autonomous military systems, naval AI, dedicated AI test centers, cyber command AI, plus specific funds for maritime robots, aerial drones, even kamikaze drones, and money to use AI for things like the DoD's internal audit.
Wow, that's a massive defense focus. What of the border security aspect?
Significant funding there, too. Billions for U.S. Customs and Border Protection for AI surveillance tech and anti-narcotics projects using AI. The Coast Guard gets money for autonomous maritime systems, and the Commerce Department gets hundreds of millions for IT upgrades involving AI.
And the sources connect this big spend and the anti-regulation pushback to the Trump administration's broader goals, right? Removing AI barriers, positioning the U.S. as number one, mentioning people like J.D. Vance and David Sachs.
Exactly. It fits that overall policy direction. And watchdog groups, again citing Ambakak, see this bill as a sign of things to come. They predict more industry lobbying against state rules and possibly a wider effort to roll back AI safeguards, especially when national security is involved.
So why does this bill matter to you? Well, it directly impacts potential future safeguards around AI applications you might encounter. It directs huge amounts of public money to military and surveillance AI, and it highlights these big political fights that could shape AI regulation for the next decade.
It's definitely one to watch.
Okay, story 3. We're shifting focus now to the media world. The New York Times has apparently signed its first generative AI licensing deal.
That's the news. And the partner is Amazon, announced today, May 29th, described as a multi-year agreement.
What kind of content does Amazon get access to? Is it just the main newspaper?
No, it's broader than that. They get access to the NYT's extensive editorial content. So the Times itself, yes, but also material from The Athletic, their sports site, and NYT Cooking.
Okay, quite a bit. And what's Amazon planning to do with all that content?
Two main things mentioned in the sources. First, using summaries and snippets in their customer-facing apps. Alexa was this a specific example given. Second, and this is really key for Amazon's AI development, they'll use the licensed content as training data for their own AI models. The idea is to leverage that high-quality journalism to improve their AI's performance.
But they're not saying how much money changed hands.
No, the financial terms haven't been disclosed.
Now, this deal is pretty interesting given the NYT's recent actions, right? They sued Microsoft and OpenAI late last year over copyright infringement, claiming their content was used for training without permission. The sources even noted the lawsuit cost the NYT something like $4.4 million in legal fees just in early 2025.
That context is crucial, absolutely. The NYT CEO, Meredith Kopit Leviten, apparently sent an internal memo explaining the deal. She framed it as aligning with their principle that quality journalism needs to be properly valued and paid for, whether that's through commercial deals like this one with Amazon or through enforcing their IP rights, like in the lawsuit.
And this isn't just the NYT, is it? It feels like part of a bigger trend.
It does. The sources point out that other major publishers, News Corp, Axel Springer, the Financial Times, have also struck similar licensing deals with AI developers, notably OpenAI. So it's definitely a strategy the industry is exploring.
What are the benefits here for the NYT, presumably reaching new audiences?
Yeah, expanding reach beyond their subscribers through platforms like Alexa, maybe converting some of those people into readers. For Amazon, it's a big boost to their AI efforts. It helps them compete better with OpenAI and others, gives them high-quality training data. Remember, Amazon's already investing heavily in AI, like that huge $8 billion in Anthropic. This deal fits right into that strategy.
So, thinking about how this might affect you. Well, you might start encountering NYT content through Amazon products like Alexa. More broadly, it shows how news outlets are trying to figure out this whole AI situation, protecting their work while maybe finding new revenue. It could really shape the future of journalism and how you get your news.
It's a significant development in that space, for sure.
All right, story number 4. Let's talk about NVIDIA and the big vision its CEO, Jensen Huang, keeps talking about. AI and robotics in everyday life.
Yeah, that's the central theme the sources pick up on. Huang's vision is all about deeply integrating AI and robots into our lives, powered by these massive AI data centers he calls factories.
NVIDIA's financials have been amazing, obviously. The recent Q1 earnings blew past expectations. But Huang seems more focused on the bigger picture, the societal shift, rather than just the numbers.
That's the impression, yes. He paints this future where these data centers are essentially the brains controlling everything: computers, home appliances, cars, robotaxis, even personal robots. Seamless integration is the goal. He talks about the tech enabling this, like their Blackwell Ultra GPU, 208 billion transistors, just incredible scale, and their future roadmap with Rubin coming in 2026 and Feynman in 2028. They're clearly building the infrastructure for this vision.
And NVIDIA is already deep into autonomous driving tech, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, hugely influential there. Many major automakers use their tech. So while companies like Waymo, Tesla, and Uber are battling it out to run the robotaxi services, NVIDIA is often providing the core compute and AI platform underneath. The sources mention companies like Hesai Group making LiDAR sensors used by Waymo and Uber benefiting from this ecosystem too.
And they contrast that with Tesla's camera-only approach sometimes.
Right, as a different technological path in that same space.
And Huang sees robots moving way beyond just factories, like into our homes.
Definitely. That's a key part of the vision robots, shifting from structured manufacturing environments to complex, everyday spaces. The sources give examples like robots making drinks, or point to projects like Tesla's Optimus robot potentially doing chores like folding laundry one day. NVIDIA's tech is seen as crucial for the AI needed for robots to navigate and operate in places like our homes.
It's interesting how Huang describes the interaction these AI data centers could let us program machines, or we could just let the AI manage things autonomously.
Yes, that raises big questions about control, doesn't it? How much do we actively manage versus how much do we delegate? We already kind of do this with things like ChatGPT, relying on it for answers or creation. Huang's vision extends that to AI managing physical systems all around us.
And investors are clearly paying attention to this vision.
They are. The sources cite investor Louis Navellier viewing NVIDIA as absolutely pivotal to the future of AI, influencing his firm's investments not just in NVIDIA but related companies like Alphabet and Hesai. The market seems to be betting on this vision.
So what could this mean for your daily life down the road? Imagine a future where your smart home, your car, maybe even robots helping around the house are all interconnected and potentially managed by these powerful AI data centers. It points towards much deeper AI integration, bringing robotics into more personal spaces, and maybe fundamentally changing how you interact with technology every day.
A pretty profound shift, if it plays out that way.
Okay, our fifth and final story for today takes us into some fascinating basic research about how AI actually learns language.
This comes from researchers over in Sweden at Chalmers University of Technology and the University of Gothenburg. The study just got published in the Journal of Language Evolution.
And the headline finding is pretty wild. They found that AI seems to learn languages in a way that's remarkably similar to how humans do.
It is quite remarkable. And the researchers think this gives us insights not just into AI, but potentially into how human language itself developed. The way they designed the study was quite clever. They set up a communication game for AI agents meant to mimic how early human languages might have formed. The AI agents basically had to invent and agree on meaningless symbols to represent different colors, and the researchers watched how this symbolic language evolved over time.
What specific AI techniques were they using in this game?
They combined two key methods in a way the source is called unprecedented for this kind of study. First, reinforcement learning, the AI got rewarded when it successfully communicated the color information. Second, generational learning, new AI agents learned the symbolic language that had been developed by the previous generation of AI agents who played the game.
Okay, so learning from experience and learning from culture, essentially.
Yeah.
What happened? Did the AI actually create a usable language?
That's the most striking part. Yes, it did. The AI system developed a structured language for naming colors, and the structure of that language turned out to closely resemble known human color naming systems across different cultures. And this happened even though the AI had zero exposure to any actual human language. The really crucial finding was why this happened. It emerged specifically because of that combination of problem solving, playing the communication game, and learning from previous generations.
Not just one or the other.
Exactly. When they tested problem solving alone, the language became too complex, too inefficient. When they tested generational learning alone, it was too simplistic. It was the synergy between the two that created an efficient, structured system.
That sounds like it really backs up what the lead researcher, Neil Carlson, was saying.
It does. Carlson emphasized how critical human communication and learning from others are for language evolution. He suggested it's this process applying what you've learned to actually solve problems, like communicating effectively, that drives language towards structure and efficiency.
So this research seems valuable on multiple fronts, understanding us and understanding AI.
Precisely. It sheds light on human language mechanisms and how AI operates. It could potentially guide how we develop AI to have more natural language skills in the future. It has implications for linguistics, cognitive science, AI development. The study title itself, Cultural Evolution via Iterated Learning and Communication Explains Efficient Color Naming Systems, really sums it up.
So why is this particularly interesting for you listening? Well, it offers this amazing glimpse into the fundamental processes behind your own language, how you communicate every single day. And it suggests AI might be tapping into similar learning mechanisms, which could lead to much more natural, effective interactions with AI down the line.
A really thought-provoking piece of research.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. We really covered a lot of ground today, didn't we? From that intense global AI competition with DeepSeek pushing the boundaries, to the complex politics and massive funding shaping AI policy and national security in the U.S.
And then looking at how industries like media, with the NYT and Amazon deal, are adapting.
NVIDIA's huge vision for embedding AI and robots into our physical world.
And finally, that fundamental research suggesting AI might learn language in ways surprisingly like our own.
Yeah, these stories, though diverse, really hammer home just how deeply and frankly, how quickly AI is becoming part of almost everything.
It's challenging existing ways of doing things, existing structures, existing norms, really, at a very fundamental level, from economics to defense to how we get information, even how we understand intelligence itself.
And maybe that's the final thought to leave you with, as we see AI systems demonstrating these complex abilities, like developing language through processes that mirror human learning. What does that really imply about intelligence itself, human or otherwise? And how might recognizing this similarity, this unexpected parallel, change our relationship with the machines we're creating?
Something definitely worth mulling over.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Keep exploring these ideas.